It's not often that a new product comes out in the drone racing world and just completely shatters all of my expectations and destroys the way that I actually build quads and totally makes me rethink literally everything. And the Whitenoise Synergy FC is one of the things that has done that for me in recent years. So let's take a look inside the package and see what we get. So it comes with 3 packages. This set of cables here, will support either the Hobbywing G2 stack, which I believe is the white one, and this one supports many others. I believe that the primary focus was for the Acon 4-in-1, but we might have to double check our work on that one. Then there's 4 rubber grommets that go in the FC. Let's set those aside. Next package, we have a TBS Unify mounting board. The TBS Unify Nano, which is currently my favorite VTX for racing, is too small for the Synergy, so he sells it with this little adapter that allows you to plug it straight in to the machine. And basically on this side you have all of the different ports that you're going to be plugging into. You're going to just solder the Unify onto there. The button ports are down here, and then you can solder a button on the top. So we'll do that all in a minute. And finally, you have the flight controller itself. So this is the actual flight controller, the flight controller board on the bottom here. You got a F4 CPU, excuse me. You have a MPU 6000 gyro, and then combined with these little rubber grommets, it's perfect for mini quads. I mean, like those are standard things, F4 and MPU 6000. And then on the other side, you have mounting points for your TBS Unify, as well as a type of receiver. So this typically, what I'm going to use it for anyway, is going to be the Crossfire Nano receiver. But you can also use like an XM Plus or certain kinds of Spectrum speed controllers, and certain kinds of Spectrum receivers. Then something else to note on the back side here is that there are these little jumper pads back here. You got one for inverting your receiver, so if you use an XM Plus, you need to be able to reverse your or invert your signal so that it can read it. You've got power output for receiver, so like if you run a Spectrum receiver, you want 3.3 volts instead of 5. Here you have for smart audio, you can have it run through the FC, or you can have it run through your radio. So you can directly, essentially jumping it to the right will directly connect the receiver and the VTX for smart audio over a radio signal. And then you finally have pads for your VTX, where you can run it through pin IO, or you want it to just be straight on all the time. And pin IO allows you to do stuff like pit mode and stuff like that. It has a pit mode through the positive signal, so it has a perfectly clean output to knock down the VTX and turn it all the way off. So for my build, I'm going to use Crossfire, so I don't need to invert. And then that runs off 5 volts. And then I'm going to use smart audio through the FC rather than through the radio, because I want to use smart audio just within the OSD. And then on the VTX side, I'm going to set it to pin IO so I can use pit mode. So let's get to that. Sorry, I'm struggling so badly with getting the jumper pads done. The whole camera system up here is like really hard to like lean over and look in and see it. So that's just my bad on not being able to do that very easily. So this is good. We're gonna set this aside and we're gonna move in on the Nano Unify now and get this all wrapped up. So if we put the VTX in there, it'll all fit real nice. Everything should line up really well. And then just come in. And I like to start down here with this one, so it's one of the easier ones to hit. And that will hold everything else in place while we set it up. Right now. I'm going to flip it over and do the reverse side of it just to add a little extra, make sure that it holds real well. Yeah, perfect. And then you can just go right down the line of these guys. It's secure, connected. The Unify is never going to come out of there. You have one tab down here that you can hit as well. It's a little bit longer of one. Yeah, so that's all mounted in there. Now this is going to mount straight onto the board. Now the only thing left to do is the button, which will just sit between those two tabs. So what I usually do with this is I get one prepped. Actually, I'll get both prepped. A little solder on there, not a lot, because it'll be easier to make it flush if it's not a ton. And then I've got these little tools here called alligator forceps, which allow me to pinch and hold pretty well. I'm gonna set it over top of the button pad. Do one side first. And then the other. There, now I got a button. Okay, so now with everything mounted on the Unify board, we can take it, set it onto the flight controller, and the most important part is to make sure that these guys line up down here. But we want to make sure that we get everything tinned up first. Now, for me, I typically like to start up here with this bigger pad in the front, and then I can get that one really good and use that to kind of align the rest of them. So I'm going to get that pretty good and wet. And then I'm going to line up these other pads as I heat this up. And then when it cools, it'll hold in place. Not super happy with that, so I can just get it hot again and reposition until I get what I want. Just be careful not to manipulate it too much, because it can be pretty easy to strip out the edges of this flight controller mounting board. Ask me how I know. And then we can get this one on the back to lock it in place. Like so. And I just go ahead and use a generous amount so that everything is for sure locked in place, because we're going to be bashing these quads pretty good. Okay, so now that's perfectly well mounted in there, and now we can kind of go over to our little back ports here and get these all done up. These are probably the hardest ones to get really good, but you want to take your time and get them as perfect as you can. But when you tin those pads up real good before you do this, it makes it a lot easier. Bridge those. Now if you look at this on its side, you can see that those are real solid. They're not going to go anywhere. And now we're ready to move on to our receiver. So something to note is that you should definitely do the VTX before you do the receiver, because it's much harder to get those pads once the receiver is in there. So just an FYI. All right, moving on to the receiver, we got to do a little prep here. I like to put the long end in there first so that there's a little space for the plastic things. That'll all make sense in a second. So if you do one of those, and then you can bend this a little bit while you heat it up to get everything in place. So you want it to be roughly up and down. And then once you make that right angle or so, give it a little bit more. And then we can just touch up the rest of these. And then slide off the plastic bit. It's a little sideways. Oh well. Alright. Now, when it comes to mounting it on the Synergy, I like to use a little bit of sticky tape, just to help hold everything in place. This is not necessary, but it's just a pro tip, I guess. Something that's worked well for me. So you just need a little bit of it. Just put it underneath. And then this pops down right over top, just like that. The sticky tape will hold it in place while you work on the bottom side. Voila! And then very carefully trim off the extra bit here. Cool. So now we've got our VTX, our receiver, our flight controller, our OSD, everything mounted on the same board. Now, one of the things I love about this guy and the way that it fits in my builds is that all the camera plugs are right here. I know ahead of time that I really don't need much length in the wire. Like realistically, like that much. It's just the way that it works in my builds. So I can just get rid of everything right away. And then what I'm going to do is prep every single wire. And then I don't need these two at all for this build. One was the ground for camera control, and the other one was the voltage sensor, but because I'm using the Betaflight OSD, I won't need those. And then CC stands for camera control, because this has analog camera control. So you have the ability to change everything within the with your radio within an OSD. So now that guy is literally ready to plug into any quad. I can swap out the entire stack without ever taking anything apart. I just got to plug this in, and this, and this, and you're done. So that's pretty neat. So that's how you build the thing. I'm going to put some antennas on it so we can power it up and show you some other things. So I'm going to first pull up the manual. Well, actually, this is the Tiny LEDs. TinySleds.com. It's their page for the product. You can scroll all the way down, and down here you see a couple targets that you have to do. So these guys just make sure that the gyro is aligned right. You can save those. And then the other things that are on here are resource camera control. So this sets up camera control to be able to be used, which we'll put in there. So that unbinds one and then resets another one. And then this is the setup for the pin I/O, which we'll explain here in a second. So if we go back in and add those commands, save. Okay, while we were away, I went ahead and bound up my radio with the Crossfire and got everything working there. And you can see that all of our channels and stuff are responding now. So if we go into the modes, we can do our arm switch, which I put on 1, and then flip over after crash, I put on 3. And then pit mode, I'm going to put on this second channel. And basically, whenever the signal is inside of it, the VTX will be on. And otherwise, the VTX will be off. One of the last things we're going to do here is put these grommets in. Now we should be able to test this. So we'll bring in a different quad that has the ESC in there. That's just why I'm using that. Plug it in just to test it out. Got our antennas on. Everything should be good. So if we give this guy power, it should come on. Now, by default, the way I have my switches set up, the VTX is powered down. So right now there is no video. But if I flip this switch, you can see it start blinking and coming to life. It's a little hard to see, but you can see the lights are coming on now. And then I stop it, and it'll start again. Stop, start. Now, one of the features of the Synergy is that when the VTX comes on, and I'm going to try to just kill some of the lights here for you, is that the VTX lights up underneath. So you see how that light's coming in, that's on, that's off, that's on, that's off. And then plug this in here. Okay, so we have no video. Oops, it's because I didn't plug it in all the way. There we go. So try to move this in here so you can see it. Go away. I'll hit this switch. This is the switch here. Video goes away. Video comes back. Video goes away. Video comes back. Pretty awesome. Now, the other thing with the Synergy was the analog camera control. Trying to figure out how to keep all this in frame. But so if I come in here and I hold full right stick, it jumps into the camera menu like that, and then I can manipulate all of these settings with my radio. Like if I hold all the way up, I could turn off the voltage and all that stuff. So in that, that's nothing new. Like analog camera control is not anything particularly special, but it's it's something that's a feature and that's nice to have. So yeah, but yeah. So that right there is the Whitenoise Synergy. So hopefully we've been able to go through everything, learn how to set it up completely, learn how to build it, learn how to program it. Yeah, again, this board is awesome. Like I can't ever use anything else because it's just such a perfect little build. Like it just fits perfectly inside of my race quad. There's no wires. It's super clean. Like, let me grab one. I just built this drone on the stream the other day. Zoom that out a little bit, and you can see like there's no wires anywhere. It's just the motors. And so, you know, with this setup like this, I can literally just take that one out, set it aside, take the new one, plug it in, we're good to go. You know, we don't have to do any troubleshooting in the field. We're just like, you know, if you don't have enough quads, you can really quickly repair. So that's actually what this one is going to be, is just a backup. I'm going to have it sitting and waiting to be just plugged in if I need it, and otherwise it's just here. So anyway, I thought that would be an interesting topic to discuss. I'm super pumped about the Whitenoise board. I thank you very much to Kevin for sending a couple of these out to me to play with and to try out, and I'm not going to be using anything else ever again because, well, that's probably not true, not never, but this could be pretty hard to top. So in the meantime, enjoy. Go check yourself out one at Whitenoise FPV or at Tiny Sleds, and stay flying.